Hello, if the milk you bought got spoiled, will you get a refund of the GST paid, the 5%? No, you won't. But if you make some paneer from it, there will be extra GST. This is a recent joke that's doing rounds. But the world of goods and service tax is as crazy as this. It started with a vow to make taxation simpler and avoid double taxation. But now there is tax on everything. No, not on everything, but on all those things that are used by common people in their day-to-day life. The latest being 5% tax on packed rice, wheat and milk products, while many luxury goods in the last 5 years got tax reductions. Yes, reductions. And this is just the trailer about GST. Before we go deep into the story, we would like you to subscribe to our channel. Welcome to the Money Trail.
माननीय सदस्यगण, आपने बहुत महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न लगाया है.
The opposition was demanding a reason for the latest 5% tax. How can the government impose new taxes, that too on people's day-to-day life needs during such inflation? The government shot back with a counter question. Why did their finance ministers vote for it in the GST Council?
The question that you will have to answer, your finance ministers were there at that meeting when these hikes were decided. Why didn't you all raise a red flag then?
Fair point. Any proposal in the GST Council can be turned down if just 1/4 of the members vote against it. And nobody opposed this latest tax on packed wheat, rice and milk products. In fact, it was unanimous. And then a drama in the parliament. But the bigger question is, why all the state governments, irrespective of political lines, are for more taxes?
Officially launched the GST.
In the beginning, everything seemed simple. There will be the same tax for a particular product across the country. The states and the union government will share it equally. About 17 types of indirect taxes, starting from sales tax, were merged to form the goods and service tax. In this process, the state governments gave up 52% of its revenue source, while the union government lost just 28%. And in spending, 3/5 of the country's total government expenditure is done by the states, and only 2/5 by the union government. So, how should the new tax be shared? The new combined tax was decided to be shared at 50-50, a very unfair proposal. But the states were promised 14% revenue growth every year. That's hell lot of money because most of the states never had such a tax revenue growth. Further, if taxes didn't grow that much, such states will be compensated to attain the growth.
During the pre-GST regime, that is the VAT regime, hardly any state recorded a growth rate of 14% which is offered. Only one state, Bihar, recorded a growth rate of 17% growth rate. The growth rate recorded by all the states were lower than 14%. For example, in the case of in Kerala, it was only 9%.
From here, the story takes an unexpected turn. No major state could attain 14% growth, and the compensation money disbursed has grown so far 3 lakh crore. Not only the states, but also the union government hasn't got desired tax revenue. Everybody expected a win-win situation 5 years back, and it has become just the opposite. And now, the 5-year window period is over. I forgot to tell you, this promise of tax compensation is only for the first 5 years. And that got over last month on June 30th, 2022. No more compensation and no desired tax growth. The states are now whining for extending the compensation period.
Here also again we are very strongly we are saying it, asking for it. Not only we, I think almost all states are requesting for the extension of the compensation period.
But the union government is in no mood to listen, and this is the reason for more taxes. The Indian economy was sliding down from the demonetization times, and then COVID made it worse. Forget the 14% revenue growth, and normal tax growth also seems doubtful. And the cash-strapped state governments are desperate. Any tax on any item will get a unanimous approval from all the states. Now what about the union government? They are in fact doing better. How come? The infamous fuel price loot.
It has been hiked by 80 paise today, leaving consumers with a hole in their pocket.
While the fuel price was falling internationally, the union government hiked the taxes. Not the sales tax, but cess and excise duty, which need not be shared with the states. But otherwise, it's the same story. The center also has less revenue growth and they have no compensation fund either, like the states. Even before the inception of GST, the union government's tax revenue was falling. From the financial year 2006 to 2021, total revenue receipts has fallen by 2.52% of GDP and tax revenue by 1.02%. GST didn't bring any improvement. And for the states in general, tax growth is stagnant around 6.6%. But for some rich states like Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, it has come down from 8.2 to 5.8% of GDP. This slide started before GST and it still continues. So the question is GST a failure? Well, nobody is very sure.
It is very difficult because to say anything precisely on the basis of the last 5 years of experience, because post GST we had many unforeseen conditions or difficult situations. To begin with, we have the demonetization, and then we had the corona. So much so that the realized revenue, there is not even a single normal year after the introduction of GST.
Many believe that there is a structural problem with the new tax system. The destruction of the unorganized sector is one and foremost. The small vendors, farmers, weavers and such people belong there. Their sectors were excluded from the GST so that they did not pay that much tax. But that also means that those inside the GST normally won't do any business with them. That's because the merits of the system like input credit are available only when you trade inside the system. On the other hand, the GST system is so complex that the small shop owners or weavers cannot even step inside it. Another is the loss of huge tax revenue. States had tax brackets up to 30, 35, 40% before GST. But then all were brought down to 28%. It was the maximum tax bracket in GST. It's to be shared 14% each between center and the state.
The council has been reviewing the rates from time to time.
But after 3 months of the inception, about 80% of the items were removed from the top 28% tax bracket. Former Finance Minister of Kerala, Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac, who was in the GST Council, will tell you how this happened.
I think Piyush Goyal is a main culprit behind that. Unfortunately, I wasn't there at that particular meeting. See, pre-election time, you come up and just say that will reduce from 28 to 18, this from 18 to 12, without presenting the data regarding the revenue impact of it. And no finance minister can object to it, saying that our revenue is going to fall. Because selection time, public perception is important. Nobody wants to be a person who wants to demand, don't reduce taxes. It's a populist demand to reduce taxes. So there was no discussion, debate. What happened was a competitive reduction. Some states would demand some favorite products to be reduced. Everybody agree. Then other states would pick up some other thing. Hey, this is just not the way to conduct business. Unfortunately, that particular meeting I couldn't go.
Many of the consumer goods from fan and electronic gadgets to shampoo and deodorants got tax reduction. But did the price fall? The answer is no, for most of it. The people paid the same price and the producers got away with more profit.
Whether the tax reduction is transferred to the consumers or not depends on what is the nature and structure of the market. If the market is one wherein the producers can have monopoly power and act as price makers, the advantage that they get from the tax reduction need not necessarily be passed on to the hands of the consumers. And in fact, our own analysis of some 25 commodities, which wherein the tax rates were reduced from 18 to 28%, we have seen that out of that, in 17% of the commodities of the 26 or 28 we considered, the prices did not decline. Instead, it has increased.
So what should the states and the center do? Logically, it should roll back the tax reduction for those luxury products. Why not also roll back the huge corporate tax reduction given a few years back, which anyway didn't do any good to the economy? Or bring back the wealth tax, where people with, say, more than 100 crore of wealth will be taxed. Charge some more money also when such a huge wealth is transferred to their heirs. But instead, we see more taxes for wealth on rice, for milk products. More tax even on scientific equipment in public funded research institutes. This is where we are. States who never got 14% tax revenue growth now think it's their right. A union government who is hell-bent on taxing anything that catches their attention. Selling everything is already their forte. Dear rulers, GST is your mess. You have to clean it. Don't bring it to the people. We can't pay you anymore.